You do not learn from experience. You learn from reflecting on experience. And so if you don't reflect and review, the chances are all of the learnings of this year will just evaporate. And of course, because we're all so busy, we're mentally overloaded, attentionally fragmented, and time poor, most of us do fail to prioritize systematic reflection. So my invitation to you is, over the next week or so, dedicate at least an hour to reflecting on your year. So now I'm going to share with you the 5 questions I answer at the end of every year to make my following year better. So ready? Question number 1. What's gone well? This is such an important question to reflect on generally because we have such a profoundly developed negative bias. So it's pretty easy, isn't it, to remember the things that have been difficult or haven't gone that well. So starting question number 1, going, what has gone well is really important. So to coach you into this, consider the last 12 months. What's gone well? What have been your key accomplishments? What have you done well? What progress have you made? But also, what have you enjoyed? What have been your peak experiences? So pause the video, spend a few minutes just writing this stuff down. You want to go for at least 10 things, maybe 20, and don't just consider work, consider your life. What's been the fun stuff, the good stuff? What's lit you up? What have been your highlights of the year? And for this, I strongly recommend getting your calendar out. Cool. Question number 2. What's been challenging? Now, again, coaching you into this, what we're looking for here is what's been harder than you hoped. Where have the struggles been? What's been difficult? What progress did you want to make, but you've not? Maybe there were habits you tried to install, but you didn't quite manage it. Maybe there have been other things that have been emotionally or psychologically hard work where you don't need to dwell on them, but acknowledge them in a non-judgmental way. Just spend a few minutes just going, all right, well, what's been hard work this year? I bet there are loads of things. Personally, of course, it's been a difficult year for many of us. So now is your opportunity. Pause the video. What's been tough this year? Great. Now, question number 3. What have you learned? Now, this question really does demand a bit of depth and time. What have you learned over the last 12 months? And you might be thinking, well, what skills have I developed? What sort of knowledge have I gained? That's not really the value here. The real value is what insights have you had about yourself? So what have you learned about yourself? About maybe your strengths, about your weaknesses? As you reflect on the answers to question 1 and 2, what's gone well, what's been challenging, naturally that leads you to kind of a greater degree of self-awareness about yourself. So maybe you've learned you need to get better at certain things, or maybe you've learned actually you're pretty good at that. Maybe you've learned that another year's gone by where you haven't prioritized X, Y, and Z, right? All of the learnings are there, but you need to spend time creating the space where your brain can present them to you, and then you capture them by writing them down. So once again, pause the video. What have you learned this year? Awesome. Question number 4, what's been missing? Now, this is a deliberately coachy question, trying to guide you towards reflections that really are about what has been inadequately represented. For most of the time, certainly when I do this reflection, it's like, what are the things that are important to me that haven't yet come up in my reflection? Or probably more relevantly, what are the things that are important to me, but I haven't spent enough time doing this year, right? So for this year, for me, for example, it was like novelty. There hasn't been enough novelty for me this year. You know, I run my own business. I'm very lucky that I get to travel the world working with different clients. I'm always learning new things. I'm doing new projects, and that's been a character of what I do. This year, not so much. Now, that's an important reflection. So next year I can really turn that up, right? Also, travel for me this year has been less than normal. Some of that's been intentional, but I've kind of missed exploring new cultures in the same way as I normally would. So maybe it's spending time with friends, maybe it's spending time with your passion projects and your hobbies. I don't know, but you do. So once again, pause the video, looking back over the last 12 months, what's been missing? Okay, now question 4B, I said there were 5 questions, but this is a new one that I've only recently started to adopt, but a really important one. Question 4B is, of all the things that you've listed to be missing, which are the ones you have control over? So go through the list that you've just created of all the things that this year has somehow been missing or lacking. Circle all the ones that you have control over, or at least influence over. So some of the examples I've just given, novelty, I have influence over that, right? I can choose to expose myself to new things, to learn new things, to take on new projects. Of course I can. Travel, I have direct control over that. I can go and travel more. You now do this exercise, underline or circle all of the things you have control over. Amazing. And now question number 5, what do you now want to change? This is now where you become future oriented. Now, it's probably useful to have a bit of a pause here and to really examine and reflect upon the answers to all of your questions so far. What's gone well? What's been challenging? What have you learned? What's been missing? What do you have control over? Because now you want to consolidate and go, okay, well, so what? What am I going to do with all of these insights? What am I going to start doing differently? What am I going to do more of? What might I stop doing? What do I need to stop doing? What am I going to do less? What do I need to get better at? What do I need to prioritize more, right? All of these things you have to change your behavior, otherwise nothing's going to change and your next year is going to be kind of more of the same. So those 4 things I've just mentioned are a very useful grid. Do this now. What are you going to start doing or do more? What are you going to stop doing or do less? Again, pause the video, get involved. Remember, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So generally, it's very easy for people to identify things to do more. Therefore, I would strongly urge you to spend a lot of time going, what do you need to do less? What do you need to stop doing? I began this video by describing how we're all so busy, right? We're busier than ever. We're distracted. We're attentionally fragmented. We feel time poor already. So you going, right, and now I'm going to do more of this. I'm going to spend more time with my friends. I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to read more. I'm going to learn more. It's like, great, but how are you going to make time or energy for that? Okay, I hope that's been useful. We don't learn through experience. We learn through reflecting on experience, right? So reflection is absolutely key. There's a great quote I read the other day by David Sivers, and he says, if more information was the answer, then we'd all be billionaires with perfect abs. I like that. What he's getting at is, it's very tempting, isn't it, to get another book, to read another article, to do another course, to think that the answer to improving our life is more information. And it's not. It's taking the information you already have, reflecting on the experience you've already had, and actually doing something meaningful with that, consequently improving your behavior, optimizing your experience. And therefore, as you do this, you will inevitably start to lead a life that is more intentional and ultimately more driven towards your values, which doesn't just make you more effective and probably more productive and more successful. It's going to lead to a more happy and fulfilling life. So, prioritize this stuff. Spend the time doing this now. Share this video with anyone who you care about, who you think might find it valuable too. Take it easy.